Hello, and thank you for joining me as for just a few moments we consider things which are spiritual in their nature, those things coming from the Word of God. In this series, we're talking about the idea of connections, and we've talked about the connection between a husband and a wife, and currently we're talking about the connection between a parent and the child. And as we've been talking about that connection in the past several videos, we've talked about the connection between parent and child and what will make that strong, and parents viewing their children as blessings and letting them know that they view them in that way. Parents loving their children, parents bringing their children up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. And we add to that list this morning with the words of Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 4, where Paul said this: "And you fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture or training and admonition of the Lord." I want us to focus in on for just a few moments that idea of not provoking your children to wrath, because that'll help make that connection between parent and child strong. What's it mean not to provoke them to wrath or to anger or to cause them to be that way? Well, when you think about provoking, that's like sticking someone with a stick, or provoking them, pushing the buttons to get them to be angry. And parents need to be careful not to do that with their children. Now, this does not obviously mean that children will never be bothered or upset with their parents. Sometimes the very act of disciplining your children for their own good may upset, may bother, may even anger them sometimes. Nevertheless, that's something that must be done, and we'll talk about that in the next video. But what I do want you to appreciate is there are certain things that we can see very clearly that parents may do, and fathers specifically are addressed in that passage, that would provoke or push the buttons to cause our children to be filled with wrath. Just a couple of things for your consideration on that. One thing is maybe never seeing anything that the child does which is right. I've seen some parents, unfortunately, that are always down on their children, that are always pointing out what they're doing that is wrong. And let me say, it's important that we do that. It's important that we teach our children the things that are wrong. And when we see them doing something that is wrong, we correct them. But imagine this for just a moment. Living a life where for 18 years, all you're told is what you're doing wrong, and all you're having done is criticism being directed your way, and never being praised, and never being told what you're doing right. Never being told by your parents that they're happy with you, are proud for you, and what you've done. That no doubt would provoke a child to wrath, and that needs to be avoided. Also, being overly severe with your children. That wouldn't be bringing them up in the training and admonition or warnings of the Lord if we're overly severe with them. We need to realize that children make mistakes along the way. And again, I'm not excusing those things which are wrong. What I'm saying is we recognize that fact, and we're not overly severe with them. We're serious and severe when we need to be, but at the same time, we don't blow things out of proportion that would provoke them to a state of wrath or anger and maybe harm that relationship that we're to have with them. And so as we think about the connection between parent and child, let's be careful as parents, and fathers particularly, as they're addressed in Ephesians 6 and verse 4, not to provoke our children to wrath as we seek to bring them up in the training and admonition of the Lord.